This happened yesterday. I stomped through the airport terminal, my wheeled suitcase clattering behind me. I was so frustrated as I glanced at my watch for the 100th time. I was supposed to be halfway to New York by now, not still stuck in the damn airport. This is ridiculous, I muttered under my breath, glaring at the departure board. My original flight had left without me, thanks to a fender bender on the highway. Now I was booked on a later one, but the delays kept piling up. A businessman in a crisp suit bumped into me, not even bothering to apologize as he rushed past. I bit back a snarky comment and took a deep breath. Get it together, Stephanie, I told myself. It's just a flight delay. But before we start, don't forget to subscribe, like, and hit the notification bell for more amazing stories. Not the end of the world, but as I sank into an uncomfortable plastic chair, I couldn't shake the feeling that this day was determined to go wrong. Flight 1452 to New York City is now boarding at gate 23. A voice crackled over the loudspeaker. I grabbed my bag and headed for the gate, praying this flight would finally get me where I needed to be. Hours later, I stumbled off the plane at JFK, bleary-eyed and cranky. The baggage claim area was a zoo, packed with tired travelers jostling for space around the carousel. You've got to be kidding me, I groaned as I spotted my bright purple suitcase emerging. With a giant rip down the side, a woman next to me shot me a sympathetic look. Rough day, you have no idea, I sighed, rubbing my temples. I just need a minute to myself before I lose it. She nodded toward a nearby restroom. Why don't you take a breather? I'll keep an eye out for any more of your bags, thanks, I said, managing a weak smile. I need to touch up my makeup. I pushed open the heavy bathroom door, longing for a moment of peace. But as soon as I stepped inside, I froze. Someone was crying. The sound was muffled but unmistakable. Deep, body-shaking sobs coming from one of the stalls. I stood there awkwardly, unsure what to do. Part of me wanted to offer comfort, but another part worried about intruding. After a moment's hesitation, I quickly touched up my makeup and left, trying to shake off the unsettling feeling. But as I waited for my bag at the carousel, those heart-wrenching sobs kept echoing in my mind. Unable to resist, I found myself drawn back to the restroom. To my surprise, the crying hadn't stopped this time. I couldn't just walk away. Taking a deep breath, I approached the stall. Hello, I called out softly. Are you okay in there? The crying hitched for a moment, then resumed. I could make out a few words. Now I can't. What am I supposed to do? The voice whimpered. My heart ached. I took a step toward the stall, then hesitated. What if she wanted to be left alone? Do you need any help? I tried again. Silence. Then, so quietly I almost missed it. Please, just go away. I bit my lip, torn. Finally, I whispered, okay, I hope you feel better soon, and slipped back out to baggage claim. But even as I collected my battered suitcase, I couldn't get those heartbroken sobs out of my head. 5 minutes later, I found myself drawn back to that restroom. The crying hadn't stopped. I paced outside the door, debating what to do. On my third pass, an elderly woman exiting gave me a concerned look. Everything all right, dear? She asked. I shook my head. There's someone in there. She's been crying for a while. I'm worried, but I don't know if I should interfere. The woman patted my arm. Sometimes, all people need is to know someone cares. Trust your instincts. With a deep breath, I pushed open the door once more. The sobs seemed to have softened, but I could still hear sniffling and quiet murmuring. I'm sorry to bother you again, I said gently. I want to make sure you're okay. Is there anything I can do? Her shaky voice replied. Unless you can make an airplane appear out of thin air. I don't think so, I frowned, confused. An airplane? My next flight doesn't leave for 3 days. I don't know what to do. Realization dawned. This woman was stranded. Hold on, I said, an idea forming. Let me see what I can do. I pulled out my phone, fingers flying over the screen as I searched for nearby hotels. There had to be something I could do to help. Do you have Zelle or Cash App? I asked. I could send you some money for a room. I don't know what those are, she admitted. Sounding lost, I chewed my lip, thinking, okay, no problem. What if I book a hotel room for you, just until your next flight? The stall went silent. For a moment I worried I'd overstepped, then, so softly I barely heard it, you would do that? For a stranger, of course. Nobody should have to spend the night in an airport bathroom. I heard movement inside the stall. Slowly, the lock clicked open as the door swung wide. I couldn't hold back a gasp. 2 small children were curled up on the tile floor, fast asleep. A woman knelt beside them, her eyes red-rimmed and puffy from crying. She looked up at me, a pang of fear and hope on her face. I'm Miriam, she said. These are my babies, Alice and Timmy. My heart felt like it was being squeezed in a vise. I'm Stephanie, I managed. Oh, honey, how long have you been in here? Miriam's eyes welled up again. Hours. Our flight was canceled, and I didn't know. I couldn't. She trailed off, looking down at her sleeping children. I crouched down next to her. It's okay. We're going to figure this out, all right? Let's get you guys somewhere comfortable. As I helped her gather their meager belongings, I couldn't stop thinking about how many people must have walked through that bathroom, heard her cry, and just kept going. I'd almost done the same thing. The taxi ride to the Marriott Hotel was quiet. Mariam sat in the back, cradling her daughter while her son leaned against her side. I kept sneaking glances at them in the rearview mirror, still processing everything. Thank you, Mariam whispered as we pulled up to the hotel. I don't know how I can ever repay you. I shook my head. You don't need to repay anything. I'm just glad I could help. As we checked in, I saw the relief cloak Mariam's face when the desk clerk handed her the room key. For the first time since I'd met her, she smiled, small and tired, but genuine. Would you like to come up? She asked hesitantly. I'd love to know more about you. If you have time. I glanced at my watch, then back at this little family that had been through so much. My own plans suddenly seemed far less important. I'd like that, I said, smiling. Back in the hotel room, the kids sprawled out on one of the big beds, immediately falling back to sleep. Mariam and I sat at the small table by the window, cups of tea warming our hands. I can't believe how close we came to spending the night in that bathroom, Mariam said softly, shaking her head. When our flight was canceled, and the next available one was 3 days later, I panicked. We used all our money to get to the airport. I didn't know how we were going to manage for those 3 days without any money. I reached out, squeezing her hand. You did what you had to do to keep your kids safe. That's what matters. Mariam's eyes filled with tears again, but this time she was smiling. You're the first person who's really seen us since we got here. Thank you for not looking away. As she told me more about their journey, I felt my own problems shrinking into insignificance. My missed flight and torn suitcase seemed laughably unimportant now. Mama, a small voice called from the bed. Alice was sitting up, rubbing her eyes. Mariam went to her daughter, scooping her up in a hug. It's okay, baby. We're safe now. Watching them, I felt a warmth spread through my chest. In trying to help someone else, I'd found something I didn't even know I was missing. Perspective. The sky outside the hotel window was turning pink with dawn when I finally said goodbye to Mariam and her adorable kids. We exchanged numbers, promising to keep in touch. As I caught another taxi, this time headed to my friend Jean's apartment in Brooklyn, I couldn't stop smiling. My whole worldview had shifted in the space of one encounter. I pulled out my phone and opened my favorite social media app. I wanted to share this experience, to remind others to look beyond their own problems sometimes. As I typed, I chose my words carefully. I was so frustrated and angry when I missed my flight, but when I realized it happened for a reason, I cried. I'm Stephanie, and what happened today just broke my heart, and then put it back together stronger than before. I hit post, then leaned back in the seat, watching the city come to life around me. For the first time in a long while, I felt truly grateful, not just for what I had, but for the opportunity to make a difference. I'm sharing this story because, in the rush of our daily lives, it's easy to miss the whispers of those in need. But when we pause, when we truly listen, magic happens. I'm forever changed by that simple act of stopping to hear a stranger's cry. Here's another story. When the unusually quiet kids next door started building a treehouse, I knew something was off. But what I discovered when I snuck inside after their suspicious behavior froze me. This work is inspired by real events and people, but it has been fictionalized for creative purposes. Names, characters, and details have been changed to protect privacy and enhance the narrative. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental and not intended by the author. The author and publisher make no claims to the accuracy of events or the portrayal of characters and are not liable for any misinterpretation. This story is provided as is, and any opinions expressed are those of the characters and do not reflect the views of the author or publisher.